I'm Gwendolyn Lindsay Cooley, the CEO and founder of Taimet, an artificial intelligence merger valuation tool that appropriately uses artificial intelligence to analyze mergers for antitrust risk. So let's check it out. When you first land on the Taimet webpage, you will find out that it's really not just intuitive, it's obvious. You have two choices: view analysis or start a new analysis. When you start a new analysis, the only inputs that you put in to find out what Taimet thinks of a specific merger are the company's names. That's partly so that you can't manipulate it, and partly so that you know that Taimet isn't running off of anything other than proprietary information that we acquire and publicly sourced information. So you just enter the two company names and press Start Analysis. You can see what these analyses look like. Typically, it takes around 30 minutes to run an analysis right now. Obviously, we're working to optimize that time and make it even faster, but it's about 30 minutes right now. So if we take a look at one of these analyses, it's pretty straightforward still to understand what's going on here, right? So here's our list of all the transactions we've run. You'll note that they have something in common, and that is that they've all actually closed in this instance. But of course, Taimet does make predictions for future transactions. Just, I'm sure antitrust lawyers can figure out why we just show the ones that have already happened. So if we look at this particular one, the first thing that strikes you, of course, is this heat map bar of antitrust risk. Now, it's not percentage likelihood that it will close. Your best options in this heat bar is to have the green scores, right? It's kind of green means go. 1 through 25 is a candidate for early termination. That's where most transactions will ultimately land. And failing that, the second most likely is possible pull and refile, that 26 to 50 score. From 51 to 65, it's a possible second request. Again, it's possible. None of these things are set in stone. And Taimet, because it is only relying on public sources, may not have information that the companies have that make the score different because they know things that we don't know. 66 to 75, which is the band where this particular transaction lands, possible structural or behavioral remedies. And then we move up to 76 through 90, and that's possible challenge by federal agencies. 91 through 100 is possible adverse decision against the merging parties. Obviously, that's a court trial. So here we are in possible structural or behavioral remedies, which is what happened in this transaction. You can see, you can at a glance tell what's going on with this transaction. Keysight Technologies versus Spirent. You've got information about the companies, the SEC filings, the leadership team, if you're trying to assemble a list of folks to depose. You've got keyword search, which is great, especially if you're new to practice or if you're really busy and don't have time to read the whole report. This is the TLDR version of what are the things that are most likely to be of concern. And of course, in the Antitrust 101 move, you just click on it and it tells you what efficiencies mean. So we look to the analysis next. This intro analysis, both the transaction summary and the analysis summary, is very similar to the kinds of reports I would give to the Attorney General when I worked in the Wisconsin Attorney General's office for 20 years. So you've got an overview of the companies, an overview of the transaction, $1.46 billion here, and then the analysis summary, which analyzes essentially at a high level the market overlaps. Again, this is crucial for when you are really busy and you need to quick talk to a client and you need to refresh your recollection about what's going on with the transaction. You'll note this one notes that DOJ required the divestiture of 3 Spirent business lines before closing. And that's because Taimet is actually analyzing the real world. It is not a but-for world analysis. It is not a merger simulation. It is not saying what should have happened. It is only assessing what did happen. It makes predictions for the future based on past information, right? So you can see if there are significant overlaps, that makes it more likely that the transaction will be challenged. And we'll go through that a little bit here. So let's take a look. Market overlap analysis. This is really what the Taimet score relies on, is these market and legal analyses. When you look at the market overlap analysis here, this is essentially a narrative form of all the markets that were examined as overlaps, and then gives an estimated current HHI for each of the markets, the deltas for each, and then the post-merger HHI. And then, of course, just for fun, we've also got the percentage of the market as we estimate. And then it goes through and gives an overview of the specific markets. We also have it represented more visually. You can see estimated HHI for each market. This is the active network service assurance platforms market. Geographic market is US there. Here, this chart, it's noted insignificant market impact because the current HHI is unconcentrated. As you can see, it's 917. And post-acquisition, it would be 1349. Although that's a delta of 433, obviously, which would be high under Merger Guideline 1, that is not significant. So that's the estimated HHI. Obviously, that's in the merger guidelines, but you have a full analysis in a Taimet report of the merger guidelines. You can see that the applicable merger guidelines here would be obviously Guideline 1, Guideline 3. Those two often go hand in hand when there's a presumption. There's also greater risk of coordination. There is an industry trend toward consolidation here that the tool flags, as well as some serial acquisitions in this space. There's also a related actions section, and this is designed to give you an overview of the litigation landscape for these companies. Here it notes no civil or criminal cases against them, but if you look at some of these other ones, and I'll show you one where I know you know what's going to happen. If you look at, for example, Illumina Grail, that one does show, if we go down to the related actions, you can see that includes the FTC's administrative complaint and then the US Department of Justice's lawsuit. I'll note that this is a US only. It does not talk about litigation in Europe or in the UK or elsewhere. So that is an introduction to Taimet, what the analyses look like, what the platform is, and we would love for you to sign up to join our waitlist. We think that there will be a lot of early adopters, and I'm sure you won't want to miss out on that opportunity. So thank you so much for joining me, and thanks for listening, and I hope you have a great day.